Yep. Good evening, everyone. So last session we learnt about working with forms. So anyone tried that example? No? Anyone tried the exercise I given of conditional rendering? Anyone attempted that? Hmm? Is it working? No. So you try that once. Check, because I showed you how to achieve up to 90%. Only one extra thing you need to implement in that. Try. So if you are unable, then in class I will show later. First you try. You should try that. Huh? So what I asked you to design is, so on Git I will push that repository actually. So I asked you to try designing and interacting with a simple grid-like interface. So you try that. Today we will see the other concept of working with forms. So what we designed in our previous class, we learned how to collect data from the form and how to handle the data. And for that, we discussed about how React manages implicitly, internally, how React can collect the data. One concept: for every element, we have to use on change, collect the data, and submit the data. Now, another important is what we need to do here is, so today we will see the other technique. Last session, what we learned is how to use form data. So what is form data? Form data is a key and value collection. It can access the data coming from form and we can use it. Actually, in React 18 and 19, one more technique is that. What is the technique is, today we will see other techniques. So another point here is, you can use reference memory. You can use reference memory to store data of form elements. You can use reference memory to store data of form elements. So another technique is there, using reference memory. How to create reference memory? So reference memory is created by using useref hook. We have an useref hook. So you have, we will use this useref in different example also. Useref is a hook introduced into React, and what is speciality is, it will create a reference memory. What is speciality of reference memory is, it can store data and it can cache the data. What is meaning of cache? If the same data is required across requests, every time it will not collect from the server, it will collect from the cache. So generally what happens, we collected data. After collecting data, we used it. After the request completed, the data is deleted. So memory allocated, data is provided. After transaction, memory is destroyed. So across requests, data is not available. What useref can do is it can create one reference memory. It can store data in reference memory so that we can access that data across multiple requests. So this is one new hook of React. It is used to store data and use it across requests without re-rendering every time. That means how it works, I will show you. Actually, what useref can do is useref can create a reference memory. It can create a reference memory. What is advantage of reference memory is it can store data and use across multiple requests. It can store data and use across multiple requests. So what is reference memory purpose is it is intended to use the data implicitly. Implicitly using the data is done with reference. I will tell you one example. Actually, it is a complex concept. I will tell you in a simple way. See, for example, we are having an app. We have one application. Now, this application we are running in our device. We opened app. So do you know, I hope you people know that your computer have a process. Your computer have process. If you are using Windows operating system, you can see the apps running in process. How? Alt, Control, Delete. If you press Alt, Control, Delete keys, it will show the tasks that are running in the process. Now, what happens is actually in this app, for this app, what it will do is in this app, we have some task like task 1, task 2. Generally, you know that your operating systems are allowing multitasking. They will allow more than one task at a time. Do you know what happens? For this app, it will manage thread 1 and it will manage thread 2, multiple threads. And in one thread, actually, in one thread, it will run one task in the process. Using another thread, it will run another task. What is the advantage of this is the process can run two tasks simultaneously at the same time. The process can run two tasks in two threads simultaneously at the same time. That's what actually multi-threaded or multitask. So what you can do is you can allocate memory. What is this useref? This useref will allocate a memory for thread. Remember, use state, we have use state. Use state, actually, it will allocate memory for app. right? But useRef will allocate memory for thread. That means the memory allocated for thread is intended to use in the process. You want some memory, you want some data to use in the process, not directly in the app. Then better you create a reference memory. Reference memory can easily interact with the thread and it can easily interact with the process. If you are having some data not to show but to use, you will not show the data, you will not present the data, but you will use the data. You will send it to APIs or somewhere. Then better always use a reference memory. What is advantage of reference memory? It allocate memory which is intended to use data internally. It is not meant for presentation. If you want for presentation, I showed you, we can use state. Use state, name, use state, age. First example, we saw that. If you don't want to show the data, just you want to use the data, then we can use this reference memory. And to access this reference memory, to use the reference memory, how we can do that, I will show you. What we can do here is, see, now this form is having, I am not using form data anymore. We are not using form data. Previously, we are using form data. I am not using any form data. And how to collect the data? Let's see. I will clean up this. On submit, we need to collect the data coming from these form elements. Then what we will do is simply here, we will create reference memory for everyone. Like LET, one is name reference is equal to useRef. And by default, it's string type. It is a name reference string type. LET, age reference, it is useRef and it is number. So we have LET, another one is city reference. City reference is equal to useRef and it is string. Another one, gender reference. Gender reference is equal to useRef and that is string. Gender is also string, male, female. Like. So we create a reference memory for everyone. Now see the interesting part. Every form element have a ref attribute. It have a reference property. You never used it in your general HTML. You never know about it. That input is having a ref. But in JSX, every element have a ref. What it can do is it can allocate reference memory so that it can store the data and it can use the data. It can store and use the data. And remember, this data is not meant for showing to user. It is meant for internal uses. So you see, it should use which reference memory? Name ref. This should use which reference memory? Age ref. This should use which reference memory? City ref. This should use which reference memory? Oh, sorry. Ref. This should use gender ref. This also should use reference gender ref. Now, once you attached the reference memory, how to access data from reference memory? You see now, I will show here console log. We can just access name reference because it is a thread. It is a memory allocated for thread. From the thread, if you want to access any data, we have to use dot current. Dot current. thread dot current. That means it is nothing but to which element reference memory is attached. It will collect that current thread data. The current thread data is nothing but the data related to whom. That means name ref dot current is referring to whom. It is referring to this entire text box. That means the entire text box is in process. We can access entire text box, but we don't want entire text box. We want only value. Na? That means we can access dot value. We can access dot value. But observe here, I am using this now. You see here. Let's run this. npm run dev. Okay. Let's open this. So localhost. Okay. And you see, I'm going to inspect. And here I'm entering some data. And I click on submit. It gets that. This time we are using a reference memory. And it is not great every time, not required every time. Reference memory, it's not easy also. You have 10 elements, you have to allocate 10 reference memories. It is okay, but it is good for forms whose data we use internally, but we don't show to user. We just internally access the data and use the data, but we will not show the data. Then better you can try this, you can use it, but still not great and very simple or easy or good for complex forms, right? We have them, but we're not great. And you know how to collect all the data now. What we have to do, if I want to submit all the data, it should be an object. In that object, we have to have username, and it will come from use reference dot current. So user reference and name reference dot current dot what value. Similarly, some age. So age reference dot current dot value. So we have city. So city reference dot current dot value. We have gender. So we have gender reference dot current dot value. We need to access that. And you see now here we are collecting the data from them, and we are accessing the data, and it is submitting. All data is same. You are changing the data and submit will collect again different. Right? It is going to access different. Which data you have, it has, is it showing same data? Na? Female is coming Y. So we haven't collected any gender reference. Yeah. So actually here we need to write a condition. Condition is nothing but if name is, if value is male, print male. If it is female, female. Like actually we need multiple references for that. Right? This is one small point, but this is not satisfying. But if anyone asks what's new in React forms in 18 and 19, what do you say? What new in React 18 and 19 forms? They have access to form data and they have access to use reference. So how do you define this reference memory? Simple, see. So first point, you have to configure reference memory. How to configure reference memory? Some name ref is equal to use ref and what type of data? Any initial data you can configure. You can make it null according to what data you are having. Next important, you have to bind the reference to any element using, you have to use ref property. Every element have a ref property. That means input ref is equal to name ref. Suppose you are having a drop down, ref is equal to some city ref. Like this, we need to define reference. After that, how to access the data? You can access the data. You can access reference memory using current property of reference thread. By using reference thread current property, you can access. That means how we can access name ref dot what current dot what value. That is how we can access the data. So this is one concept of how we can manage the form. Example, I will copy this example. This is the example of form demo. How we handle form demo, I will copy. This is example of form demo. So same, I given form demo dot what JS. So in React way, if you want to handle the form, so yesterday you saw using form data, and now we can use reference memory. By using reference memory, you can manage. Now, but still they are not good, easy, satisfied for complex things. That is the reason in real-time projects, we depend on third-party form library. Third-party form libraries we use. The famous third-party form libraries used in companies in various projects. We have one. Formic is one library. Can do forms is another library. It belongs to Telerik company. Telerik. And we have React Hook Form. React Hook Form is another library. There are so many, but these are famous. That means designing form, accessing data from form, validating the form, forms with good security. Because what is problem is when you submit data with forms, data can be hacked. They are not secured. You need to take a lot of security measurements. These libraries inbuilt have them. Inbuilt have those facilities. We can directly use them. I will show you how to use Formic and React Hook Form. Kendo is a paid one. So it is officially used by Microsoft, IBM. These people use Kendo Forms. That is a third party, very famous. And Formic, you can see already we know now. So Telerik. Telerik is a third party. And you can see Telerik. I will go to demos. You see, these are all customers of Telerik. Microsoft, IBM, NASA. You go to the demos of actually, what is specialty is it provides built-in hooks. It provides built-in hooks for handling form and validation. It will provide built-in hooks for handling form and validation. And very important is it provides built-in events. It provides built-in events. Actually, what we have to do, we have to write events to collect the data from form elements. From text box, from checkbox, we have to write on change, on blur, on submit. We have to write events to collect the data. But these Formic has built-in events. That means it is having events like on change inbuilt. It is having like on blur. It is having like on submit. By default, it is having events. And what is speciality of these events? They are already written with logic. That means you don't need to write any logic. Just attach those events. It can collect the data and it can give you the data. That means without writing much logic, we can easily access the data from any form element because events are built in. You have to just add those events. We can use events. Another important is, so it provides security against cross-site request forgery. It provides security against cross-site request forgery. Actually, XSRF is very famous in web design. Cross-site scripting attacks, cross-site request forgery. I think you remembered I told you this in Axios also. While we learned about Axios, I told you Axios also have these features. If you are there in Axios concept, already we discussed that. So when you are submitting data from form, security is one important, and it has security against cross-site request forgery. So it is having security against this cross-site request forgery. We call it as what? XSRF. 1 second, we'll check. Yeah. What is XSRF? It is cross-site request forgery. That is XSRF. Not only that, one more important is it provides built-in components. Built-in components. What is the purpose of these built-in components? To design, you can design forms, you can design validations, etc. Everything we can create by using this. So Formic is a third-party library, and this Formic library provides so many features. We will see all of them, how to use those features, how we can design. Remember, in this Formic also several levels are there. I will show all. Means from complex to simple, how it can handle the data. We will see different levels, how we can manage, how we can handle it, right? Let's see. So for that, first, what you have to do is you have to install Formic for your project. You have to install simple npm install and Formic and save. You have to install Formic for your project. Okay. Next important, after installing Formic have a lot of things. We will see first. You have to import use Formic hook. You have to import use formic hook. You have to import that use formic hook into component. And after that, you have to configure form. How to configure form is elite or constant formic is equal to use formic. This formic contains some options. What are the options? First important is we have initial values. Initial values is nothing but it defines what data form has to handle. What are the elements and what is the data that form has to handle? You have to mention. It is an object means it is a key and value. That means what is initial values? Detailedly I will give in the next line. It will have initial values. It will have validate. Have validation schema. Validation schema uses an object and it is having on submit. On submit uses a function and it has enable reinitialize and it is a boolean true or false. This is how we have to configure a form. Every form contains initial values, validation function, validation schema. What is difference? I will tell you what are those. We will see that. On submit, enable reinitialize. We don't need all every time. We will see depending on situation how to use. What are initial values? Initial is nothing but actually initial values. It is nothing but it defines the data to handle. What data you want to handle, that you have to define with initial value. What is validate? Validate is nothing but it uses a custom validation function. That means you can write a function and you can validate every field inside the form. Custom validation means your own validations. You can write your own validation. There are built-in validations. If you want to use built-in validations, you have validation schema. Validation schema, it uses predefined validation services. And what are those predefined validation services? How to install them? We will see. We can download and install ready-made validation services and we can use. And what is on submit? On submit is nothing but it defines the actions to perform when form submitted. When form submitted, what actions to perform? We can do that on submit. Enable reinitialize, actually enable reinitialize. Enable reinitialize, actually it is used for forms that handle edit operation. That we will see later. Edit operation means already data is present and that data is initialized and you want to reinitialize with new data. That means already data is submitted. You will open the data and you want to update. Updating is nothing but that here components will not allow to assign. They will always allow to reinitialize. State, we learned that state will not allow to assign value. It will allow to reinitialize the value. So if you don't enable reinitialize, it will not allow edit operation. Later when you learn edit operation, you will use it. Every time it is not required. What are the basic things? Let's see now first. What is the specialty? How to configure? We will see that. Okay. Let's clean up this now. All this we are deleting, and we don't have any references also. Make sure that every form element have a name. That is compulsory. Every form element is having a name. That is important. Okay. Let's see how to use formic. That means currently now the form is again empty. Nothing is there. Anything handle submit is also not there. Okay. Now the form is empty. Nothing is there. Now it will not work because we haven't defined any functionality. So it will not work. It is empty, nothing. It is not going to do anything because we haven't designed any interaction for that. Okay. How to handle the form using third party? Let's see the first step. What we have to do? npm install. What is it? Formic. Formic and save. We are installing Formic. Okay. Now after installing Formic, you have to import Formic. Import use Formic from Formic. After that, you have to configure the form. How to configure a form? Constant Formic is equal to what is the hook? Use Formic. This hook contains some options. What are that? First option, initial values. Initial values is an object. It defines what data you want to handle. What is the data you want to handle? It is a key and value. User name, empty. It is a string type. Age, it is a number type. We have city. This is also string type. We have what? Gender. That is also string type. Remember, these initial values should match with the field names. What field names you given, it should match with. And another very simple, after configuring that, so another option on submit. On submit, it will use a function. This function will collect the user details. And once it collects the user details, just we will log console.log user. That's it. Later we can send it to API to store the data and everything. Just this is enough. That means now you defined what data to handle, and you defined on submit, collect the data and use it. But remember, this formic you designed is still not used by the form. Now what we have to do, we have to attach the formic with the form. You designed formic, you designed form, but there is no link between them. They are not connected because in a component there can be multiple forms. And how to tell that this form will work for this? So we need to connect the form. How? So after you configured the form, next point what you have to do is connect the formic reference with the form in UI. How you connect? Very simple. When you define form on submit, what it should do? Actually on submit, we have to write a function, and that function will collect the data and it will use the data. But we said that formic have ready-made functions. We have to just use them. Formic dot handle submit. That's it. What formic dot handle submit is? It is a ready-made event which is already written, and it will map to which one? On submit. That means when you submit, it will collect the form data and it will use the form data. If you ask where is the logic, logic is already written. You just use it. You don't need to write any logic. Earlier we have to write. Now it is already written. Just use. Similarly, how to bind with any element? input type is text and its name is some user name. And on change, I have to collect the data. I don't need to write any event. Already event is ready. We have to use formic.handle change. That means I'm writing the event. This event will automatically work. It will collect the data and it will use it. That means you need to just connect the formic with the form. How to connect the formic with the form? Simple. Form on submit. What we have to do? Formic dot handle submit. Okay. This on change. Formic dot handle change. Earlier, what we have done, we have to write these events, collect the data, e dot target dot value. But now we don't need to do that. Simply on change. Formic dot handle change. So here on change, formic dot handle change. And here on change, formic dot handle change. Here on change, formic dot handle change. Remember, there are so many techniques. I will show all of them. This is one technique. Once you learn all techniques, you will decide which one is easy and simple for your requirement. There are so many ways, right? Okay. You see, that's it. We configured the form, we connected. Now see how it works. We are entering the details. We are selecting city, we choose the mail and we submit. Data is submitted. And one warning it is showing. You see, data type is correct. Warning is nothing but it says that when you design a submit button, make sure that button type is what? Submit. That is just a warning about it. You see, now I entered the data, I selected and I choose and I submit, it will get that. You are changing the gender, you are changing the city and you are submitting, it will get that. This time, any complicated form is simple. Just you have to configure what data to handle and connect with your form. It is going to access and going to use it. That's good. This is the concept of working with a simple form using Formic. What is the first step? Install Formic, import Formic, configure Formic. In the configuration, two details are basic. What are those details? Initial values and on submit what to do. And very important, you need to connect the Formic with the form. On submit, Formic will handle submit. But where is handle submit? That is internally written. You don't worry. Where is on change, handle change? That is internally written. You don't worry. That means it will collect the data from this and it will give it to the form before submitting. So what is advantage? All these are built in. Just you connect them, you can access and you can use it. This is one concept. But this is a simple form. That means we created a form. We are collecting the data. This is form demo.what.js. But important is I don't want the form to submit it until or unless it is valid. That means you see now, without entering the data, if I submit, it is submitting empty. It should not allow. We need some validations. So there are two ways. Problem is, even you know in JavaScript, in HTML, several validations are present, but they are not according to our requirements. Everything is not satisfied. We have to write our own validation. So let's see how to validate a form before we submit the form, right? That is important. So we will see in a very major concept here, Formic validation. How we handle the validation. First point, what is validation? So validation is the process of verifying user input. It is the process of verifying user input. When user inputs anything, we are verifying. Why you are verifying? Why you are verifying? So validation is required to ensure that contradictory and authorized data is not get stored into database. That is the main aim. Why you need validation? We need validation to make sure that contradictory unauthorized data is not stored into database. Contradictory means I'm expecting one type, but they are sending another type. That is contradictory. Unauthorized means I'm expecting a limit of 5. They are sending 20. That is not authorized. Contradictory, unauthorized data cannot be stored in the database. How to verify that? For that, we need validation. Actually, there are two ways. You can write your own custom validations, right? So you can configure custom validations, or you can use built-in validation services. I will show both of them. Custom validations, we can write our own validation. For example, you remembered in your HTML, you learned text box can be given with required. Am I right? Required means it will not allow to submit empty. How checkbox is verified, whether it is selected or not? Can I use required for checkbox? Can I use required for checkbox? You cannot. Can I use required for radio? No. Have you tried? Can we use required? For example, you know HTML. Yeah, this is your HTML. Suppose you say this is required, and you see this is required, right? This is also required. So that means you see now, this is a general HTML form. And when I submit without entering, it will show please fill the field. I entered it and I'm not selecting male or female, submitting. It says please select one of these options. We can use that. So, but it is not satisfying, because these errors, validations are not suitable everywhere. Can I use the same required for a drop down? Suppose I'm using a drop down, I'm using for radio checkbox, it's okay. But if I'm using a drop down in an option select city, so and I have to select a city, Delhi something, and I given here required, right? Is it possible to define required for that? That means you see now I entered something, I selected mail, I'm not selecting anything but submit, it is submitted. Required is not working. Drop down box. That means these validations cannot work everywhere. We have to manually write validation. So what is one advantage here is you can write your own validations, or you can put built-in validations. How to use both, I will show you. How to write your own validations. That means we can write custom validation. Let's see. That means what is the concept? So I will show you how to deal with custom validation. Custom validation means, what is the concept? You can write your own validation function where you can verify the form data, whatever data entered in form, you can verify and report errors. You can verify the form data and we can report errors. How? What you can do is you can write a function. You can write a function. This function is validate form something or validate user. That is a function. This function will collect form data. It will collect the data coming from form. Form data means, it is a key and value na, and it will have errors object. And here you write validation logic. And after that, you just return the errors. You write your own validation function, validate everything, and return all the errors. And what you have to do is you need to attach this to your formic, LET or constant. We have formic is equal to, what is it? Use formic. In this use formic, you have options. What are the options? First one is initial values. What are values you deal? Here you have validate. Validate can use validate user function. And just you have to attach that. On submit, you have to write the logic, what action it should do. Now what formic is going to do is, whenever anybody tries to submit the form, first it will execute this function and it will pass the data into it. What that function is going to do, it will verify the data. Is it according to the requirement or not? And if there are any problems, it will return. That means now what happens, this formic will return all the errors that you have. And we can report the errors and we display the errors. So we can write our own validation function and we can attach to the form. But that is lengthy, complicated, but it is very good. Actually, in real world, several times we prefer this because built-in validations are not satisfying. If I don't fill a name field, then it is saying, please fill the field. It is not saying that name is required, age is required. It will not show custom messages. I don't want them. I want my own messages. Then what we do is, you see here, how we write the validation now. How you configure the validation. Let's see. Before submitting, I want to validate. So let's see what to do. First, you write a function, validate user. This will collect the form data. Form data is coming from form. Form data is an object which contains username. So you can give anything, doesn't matter. That means you can mention as user. So what we have to do, we have to configure. So we have to configure errors object. And what this error object, it has to return the errors object. And we should use for this form, validate, validation, validate, it should validate user na. It should use validate user. And see what we have to do. What is the validation now? You write all the logic. So what is the logic? First, if username not entered, I should display username required. How you will verify username is entered or not? If user.username dot length is equal to 0. What does it means? Username is not provided. Then errors object will have username key. In that we will put a message saying that user name required. Understood? That means we will add a property called username into errors, because errors is an object. Na? In that object, we will add a dynamic key, username. and that username says username required. Okay. Conditions your ways. Else, if user dot username dot length is less than 4, if it is less than 4, that means it is not 0, but it is less than 4, then errors dot username, I will put a message, name too short. That means it is too short name, minimum 4 characters required. Your wish, you put any lengthy message you want. That is for username. How to verify name, age, your wish, same thing. What to do? If user dot age is 0, default it is 0 na. So if it is 0, then errors dot age, what we have to do? We should display age required. Am I right? We have to mention age required. Otherwise, we have another option. If is NaN user dot age, that means the age is not a number. You know JavaScript functions, how to verify whether it is a number or not. That means error dot age, we will put a message, age must be a number. You can even write multiple conditions like age between 15 to 30. Condition your wish. Okay, let's write for city. How? For example, you see in the drop down, the first option is not a city. That means I will give value for this as value as empty. That means if here we will write a condition again. What is it? If user dot which field? City is equal to empty, then errors dot what? City is equal to city required. I will put that message. Otherwise, so that is enough. If it is not empty, then it will take any value into that. Okay. Now, similarly, another condition, if what? If user dot gender is equal to empty, that means it is not selected. Errors dot gender, we say gender required. All these are options. Now, where to display the error messages? Below this, we want to display the error message. Here we want error message. How to access error message? Simple. Formic dot errors. This errors object has error of which field? Username. I will put as text danger. Text danger is color. Similarly, age related error we should display here. Text danger. What is it? Formic dot errors dot age. Here city related error. Same. We will put here class text danger. And what is it? Here we have to define formic dot errors dot what? City. Gender related error. Same. We have class text danger, and this is what? Formic dot errors dot which one? Gender. All these are ready. Now see what happens here in the form, and when I click on the submit, then it will show all the errors, and it is unable to submit the data. It is not submitting the data until or unless everything is valid. Now you click here and you start typing. Observe, it says name too short and minimum 4 characters. Now it is fine. Age is required. You entered some, actually we can't enter A or B or anything. We cannot enter. Why? Because it is number type. Na? If it is string type, it is fine. Now you entered age. Now it is okay. City, I selected a city, that is fine. If I don't select a city, then it says select city required. Right, we select a city and gender we selected, that is fine. And when we submit, now it will submit. This is validation. We can write our own validation. Actually, in real world, we prefer this much because built-in validations are not satisfying. You know that input type email is there that will verify only at the net present or not. It will not verify others. That's the reason built-in validations we can use, I will show, but custom is important. We can write our own validation functions to verify, and we can report. If all the validation pass, then it is going to display. Actually, so what is the concept? How to display the errors? Like here, one point, you can access errors by using. So by using, what is that? By using formic dot what? Errors. Errors is an object by using formic errors object. So how we can access that? We have to define formic dot errors dot field name. Whatever field name is there, it will get. It will get the field name and it will display. One more important point is there. Actually, it is verifying the validations are verifying when you are typing. That means when I am typing, it is verifying. But see, it is verifying all. But it should verify only username. But it is verifying all of them. It should verify only username. Why this is happening? Because generally form has two states of validation. Validation is two levels: input validation, form validation. Currently, form validation is working. Form validation means all fields are verified at a time. So validation can be input level, validation can be form level. Default, it is form level. Any one field mistake, all will fire up, right? But it should verify only specific field. So you should know one important point here. One more point you should know, that validation is configured in two phases. One is input state validation. Another one is form state validation. We have two options. What is difference is input state validation. So validation is used to verify every field individually. Verify every field individually. It is used to verify every field individually. And form state validation is used to verify all fields simultaneously at the same time. All are verified at the same time. How to control that? Actually, you see the point. When I click inside the form, this is called touched. That means username is touched. When I click outside, it is touched. It is touched. When I do any modification, that is called change. You know that when we enter anything, that is change. That means actually in validation, it is called dirty. Dirty means some modification happened. Then it is called dirty. If it is selected, then we call it as touched. You click inside, click outside, then it is called touch. If you do some modification, then it is called dirty. I will show you, we can use them, right? Observe carefully what I am doing. Let's do one thing. Just for your understanding sake, below this, somewhere, I am writing formic dot values values is nothing but it will collect all the form values. In that, what is the field name? Username. Username dot. We have options like username is a, I will use just like this. Formic dot field is what? Yeah. You have an option like dirty, and you have an option like what? Touched. You can see there are properties. What is touched? What is dirty? It is nothing but touched indicates it is selected. Dirty indicates some modification happened. I will show. We will put in an example. So there are some important phases. How to verify the phases? Here we write a logic like this. What is it? If formic dot, what is the values? Values. That means we have values. In the values, what is the field name? Field name is what? Field name is username. Username is equal to, suppose we are defining, we are using touched. Understood? If it is touched, actually, we generally use the key as what? Touched. If it is touched and it is having error, that means the formic username is touched and it is having error, then display the error. We don't need to verify the value. Actually, I will show you one concept. Just roughly, I will show you the concept. Means before this, just print it here. We will print here formic dot, what is it? Touched. Observe carefully what it is going to return. So yeah, where we use some modification we done somewhere. Right. So this is username. Okay. Now you see here. Yeah. You see now, I click in the username. I click in the username. It is touched. Na? I will click outside. Then you see it is touched. That means it is verified as what? Touched. If it is touched and when you click outside, that is called blur. When you click outside, that is called blur. You know the event, right? I'm typing now. So what it should do is, if it is touched and it is blur, then it should fire up the error message and show. So we have to add multiple events. It should not show error message for all the fields directly. So what we should do? We should verify, is it touched or not, right? For example, you see here I'm writing the condition. What is it? So formic dot, what is the field name? Formic dot what? Touched. Touched. Which field name? Username is touched and we are using this. Actually, only one event is attached. Which event is attached? On change. But actually, we have to attach multiple events. We have to attach multiple events. You click here and you click outside. It is not showing because blur is not attached. Right? If blur is not attached, it should attach blur also. How to attach the blur? We have to use an option here. What is it? On blur. On blur, formic dot handle blur. We have handle blur. That means if you want to verify the validations on different events, like we have to configure on blur. That means what will happen now? I'm not entering the details. You click here and you click outside. It is blur. It will show. And now when I enter something, then it is verifying. Previously, it is verifying only on change and it is verifying only on submit. But now it is verifying, but it is verifying on where it is verifying. It is verifying on blur. But we have to verify blur for everyone. For all of them, you have to write. So by default, validation works on one state, right? So one important point, the form state validation is default, and it fires up on change event, So if you want to trigger on blur, then what we have to do, you have to configure blur event also to that. You have to configure blur. How to write now? We have input. What is it? On change formic dot what handle change, and on blur is equal to formic dot what handle blur. We have to write these two options here. Is it enough? Not enough. You have to write all the conditions. For every field, we have to write the conditions. What are the conditions we have to do? We have to write the condition. Is it touched or not? Right? So if it is touched and it is having error, then you display the error message. Right? We have to write conditions like this. That means if the field is touched and it is having error, then display. And we have to write on blur for everyone. That means on blur, we have formic dot handle blur. So here also I will write on blur. So formic dot handle blur. Actually, here change is enough. Here also on blur. Formic dot handle blur. So we are writing two events. That means now form will validate on three stages. What are those? On submit click, it will verify. On change, it will verify. On blur, it will verify. You see, it has to verify on the three phases. On submit, it is verifying. When I click inside, it is verifying. Right? And when I am changing, it is verifying. But very important is when I am changing, it should verify only specific field. It should not verify all of them. It is verifying all of them. So for that, what is the solution? You have to use various form state services. We have to use various form state services. What are those services? We have touched, we have dirty, we have is valid. So we have valid. So we have valid. Valid. So we have touched, dirty, valid. These are three important options used for services. They are used at different levels. Input level we will use, form level we will use. First I will show you at form level. Then we will see at input level. Not here. We will see at form level first. So first concept is see. If the form is having any validation problem, then submit button should not work. Right? So what we have to do, we have to verify all fields are valid. If all fields are valid, then only enable submit, otherwise disable. So how do we verify that? See, go to the submit button. In the submit button, we have to write a property disabled. You know, disabled is a property of element. It will take true or false. Here we will write a condition. What is the condition? Condition is formic. Formic is valid. That means it is valid. If formic is valid, what should happen? Then question mark, disabled must be false. Otherwise, disabled must be true. Now what will happen? You will see that simple here. I am clicking on submit or anywhere. I click outside. Now submit is disabled. That means until or unless you enter all the fields correctly, That means everything is filled up correctly. Then only the submit will work. If any field is having a problem, submit will not work. That is valid. What about dirty, touched? Same. For example, until or unless you see, we don't need everywhere. I will show you. Suppose we have a button called save. I want this save button to display only when some modification done. If modification not done, it should not display. Then how? How to verify whether any field modified or not? That is done with dirty. That means I want to hide it. How you will hide any element? You know, you can apply class name. We will apply the class dynamically. What is the class? Based on condition. What is it? If formic dot dirty will return true if there is any modification. If it is dirty, then D inline. That means display inline. Otherwise D none, display none. Then see what will happen now. What it is going to do is save button is not there. And I click inside and start typing. Then the save button will come. That means the button is disabled, enabled, or button is displayed. For example, if I touched any field and I came out, then I want save button to come. Your wish. You can use another one instead of dirty. What you can do? You can use what? Touch. What does touched means? It got focus and lost the focus. What is difference between touched and dirty? Touched means they clicked inside, but they haven't modified. Dirty means they modified. If modified, it is called dirty. They just clicked without typing anything, came out. Then it is recognized as what? Touched. That means we can use touched. That means what is the meaning? If it is touched, then it will display. If it is touched, then it will display. Otherwise, it will not. Based on that, we can define. But it doesn't suit here because we have to verify only for the field. This is based on is valid. If it is not is valid, what is it? Dirty. If dirty, then display. If it is dirty, then display. You are typing something, it is displayed. Right? So what is the difference between these three? Touched means focus and blur. Then it is called touch. Dirty means value modified. Valid means is valid. Is valid. Is valid means, so that means all fields are valid. If all fields are valid, then you can. So this is one important example. This is same form demo.what.jsx. So that is the form demo.jsx. But it is still not done. Right? That means we need to handle a lot of validations here. What are those validations? So when you click inside and click outside, it should verify only that. It should not verify all. We call it as input state validation. That is different. And that we'll see in next session tomorrow. Right? In tomorrow, we will learn input state validation and built-in validation service. Means you don't need to write any much logic. Ready-made validations are present, we can use them. That makes validations and forms more easy, more fast. That we'll see in tomorrow. Right? If we can finish forms and validation, now we can design one app with all CRUD operations. We will create one end-to-end application with the help of this concept. That will start in the next session. Tomorrow we'll continue with it. Okay? Right.